What's going on, Seashell Addicts? I don't normally post videos like this one on my channel, but I had a pretty terrible experience with American Airlines, and I wanted to make a video about it. And this video is why I will never fly with American Airlines again, and also hopefully why you should also steer clear of that company. So I had an opportunity to go home from Wednesday to Sunday. So I was going to leave on the 15th and come back on the 19th of December. And there was a round trip flight from Pensacola to Erie, and then it would be Erie back to Pensacola. So I left Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock and from Pensacola, arrived in Charlotte, and I had a 10-hour overlay, which I already knew about. But I also have family in Charlotte, so I was able to rearrange family to come pick me up, and I was able to hang out with some family that I hadn't seen in a really long time, which was great. So that was a really good part of the day. So after kind of having lunch and seeing some family I haven't seen in a while, I go back to the airport and get ready for my next flight to Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie, Pennsylvania. Now at the time there was no talk of bad weather conditions or anything. Everything was perfect and good to go, and so took off from the Charlotte airport at around about 10:50 at night and was on our way to Erie, Pennsylvania. As we arrived to Erie, Pennsylvania, everything just seemed smooth, no issues whatsoever. We were descending and getting ready to land, and I could literally see like the little lights and stuff on the airstrip. We're probably 5 feet from the ground, and our pilot just bailed from landing and took off and sped back up again and did another loop. And then when he did that second loop to come down and land, he lost control of the plane. And I'm being completely honest with you guys, we almost crashed that plane into the Erie airport. It was super sketchy, super scary. So he goes ahead and bails out of that one again, and then we don't hear anything about where we're going for like an hour. It's just complete silence. Like, I already knew we weren't going to land in Erie. I was just trying to figure out where we were going to land because I had my mom and Greg, which is her husband, were going to show up and pick me up and take me back to Jamestown, New York from Erie, Pennsylvania. So about an hour into the flight, they let us know that we're flying to an airport called Dulles, and I've never heard of Dulles, so I didn't know where we were going until we landed, and I was able to get on my GPS and saw that, well, we had landed just outside of Washington D.C., which according to my GPS was about a 6-hour drive from Jamestown, New York. So we land, and we land at like 2:30 in the morning, and they basically tell us that they don't have any information about our flight tomorrow to Erie, and that we'll have to come back to the airport at 8 o'clock and get information on our next flight. So they were nice enough to comp us a hotel. However, the hotel that I was given, I didn't get to check into it until 4 o'clock in the morning, and me seeing that I had to be up at 8 o'clock in the morning wasn't much time for sleep. Didn't really sleep that well, anyways, because I was kind of like, upset that this had happened. And it also didn't help that the hot water wasn't working in the hotel, so I chose not to take a shower, which from what you'll hear about from the rest of the video is I probably should have just went ahead and took that cold shower, but I chose not to because it was freezing cold. There was no hot water. It's terrible. So get up in the morning, head to the airport, and the attendant tells me that there's no flight to Erie from that airport, and that the next available flight wouldn't be available till Friday night, because the other ones that they had were already full. So I talked to my mom and said, hey, like, it doesn't make sense for me to fly all the way, fly there, spend 12 hours with you, and then get back on a plane and fly back. It just doesn't seem like a good time consumed. So I told her that I was just going to see if they could reroute me back to where I came from. So that's what they did. They went ahead and booked me at Ronald Reagan's airport. So they comped me with a taxi, and the taxi had to drive me from Dulles Airport to about 30 minutes to the Ronald Reagan International Airport in downtown Washington, D.C. So drove over there and made it to my terminal at the Reagan Airport, or the Reagan Airport, and the plane was like 15 to 20 minutes late, which was an issue because my connecting flight in Miami is where I was flying to was supposed to. I only had like a 37-minute overlay, so each time that passed was less time that I could get to my next terminal. Uh, so we finally take off and we land at the Miami airport at 5:04 p.m. and I don't get off the plane until 5:07, and my next flight is supposed to be leaving at 5:30. So as soon as I get off the plane, I let the attendant know at the front desk, hey, I'm trying to make it to my next flight. Can you please call and let them know that our plane just landed and that I'm on the way? And I had no idea because I've never been to the Miami airport. We came in on gate D7, and the plane that I needed to catch was on D60, which I looked it up and ended up being half of a mile. So I booked it. I ran. I got there at like 5:27, thinking that I had just made it in time, and they denied me from being able to get on the plane home to Pensacola. Uh, and the lady behind the counter told me that maybe next time I should plan 5 minutes earlier, which is complete BS because there's nothing that I could have done to, speed up my arrival time. So it was pretty much impossible. So I was told that I missed the flight and that the next flight wasn't going to be flying out for another 5.5 hours. So I was like, all right. So pretty upset about finding out that I missed that flight. It was me and a few other people as well that had missed that flight. We were all in the same situation. We were all coming from flights that had been arriving late, which doesn't make sense to me why they couldn't hold the plane, knowing that there were planes that were arriving just a few minutes late. That just tickles me wrong, and just how she responded to me, I didn't appreciate that. So go ahead and get rebooked, and I was like, well, I'm already here, I might as well go get dinner. So I go to one of the restaurants within the Miami airport, and I just wanted to buy something simple, just like like a sandwich and a water. That was all I was looking for. So when I went to check out, my card declined. My bank card declined, and the reason why it declined was because my bank thought that my card was stolen, and thought that it was a fraudulent charge, that someone had stolen my credit card and went to 6 different airports and spent money at each airport. So they flagged my card and I wasn't able to use it. So at that moment, I didn't have any cash on me, and I also had my bank card that it's not working. So I was getting pretty frustrated, pretty disappointed that I went to AA, told them my situation, asked, is there any way that I can get some sort of food voucher? And of course, they told me no, because it was my fault that I had missed the connecting flight, which is technically it's their fault. They were the ones that were late to getting me to my location and then why would you land in D7 and then your logistics department decide to put the next plane in D60, which is a half a mile away from that just doesn't make sense to me. That you're setting your customers up to fail is basically what that is. So I was being set up to fail. So didn't have any money, and so I had to post on my Facebook that, hey, like, these are the things that are going on. The only thing that I had was a PayPal card that didn't have any money on it. So I was just asking some friends, if they had a couple bucks to spare, if they'd be willing to PayPal me so I can get some dinner. And truly blessed by that. I had 5 or 6 friends send me some money, and I was able to get a decent dinner, which was so So blessed for that. So after I got dinner, um, went back down and waited and sat in the terminal for another 2.5 hours. And then I got the dreaded email that my 10:30 flight to Pensacola had been canceled due to like foggy conditions. And we'll get back to that part of the story here in a little bit. Um, so I had to go and get another rebooked ticket um, for the next day at 9 a.m. And seeing from my position that this flight was booked through from an American Airlines staff, it wasn't booked by me, it was booked by the staff. I felt that I was still in the right to be comped a hotel to sleep at. So I waited in line and pleaded my case to the assistant at the American Airlines, you know, booth where you change your flight. And they told me that it was weather condition related, and that due to their policies, they would not be offering me a hotel or a car or a taxi to get to a hotel. And because my card was not working, I couldn't get one myself. So, um, so basically, American Airlines made me sleep in the Miami airport on the hard, flat floor for 12 hours. Now, keep in mind the shower I didn't take. At this point, I hadn't taken a shower in 3 days, and I smelled terrible. I brought just enough clothing with me, and a lot of my essentials I didn't bring with me because they have like a rule where you can't bring things over 3.4 ounces. So my original plan was, well, my mom's already going to have all that stuff at her house, so what's the point of me bringing it with me? So didn't have anything to clean myself with. I felt really disgusting. And from that perspective, it made me feel that American Airlines had no interest in my well-being. They treated me like an animal. They didn't treat me as a human being, and I made sure that the person behind the desk was aware of that feeling. And that person told me that that's not the kind of person they are. They're just following company policy. And my response to that is, you are who you work for. I mean, that's where it all comes down to. Now, you as a person, may not treat me that way, but you technically are, because you're working for a company that has no moral interests in doing the right thing, in helping someone in a situation. All I wanted to do was, get a nice shower and just being able to have a good night's rest, because at that time I had been up for 38 hours with maybe 2 to 3 hours of quality sleep. So after fighting with them about that, and then finding out that I'm not going to be getting a hotel, I toughened it up, and I tried sleeping, but it was so hard to sleep with so much noise. And plus, Miami airport, they keep their air conditioner running, so it was like a solid 62 degrees inside the airport. Outside the airport, it was like 70. So I ended up like starting shivering. It was terrible. So didn't get any sleep in that 12-hour period. I had just enough money left from the donations that I got to acquire breakfast, which was M&Ms and a chocolate milk, which not really the breakfast of champions, and it also cost $9 for that. It was like a small bag of peanut butter M&Ms and like a regular, 16-ounce fluid thing of chocolate milk. So that was my breakfast of champions. And then the 9 o'clock comes around. Finally, that flight did not get canceled. Thank goodness. They were offering a voucher for $950 for anyone that would be willing to take it and wait for the next flight. But if I would have been able to have gotten a shower in a hotel, I probably would have taken that as an opportunity. But I just felt really disgusting, so I didn't take it. Thank goodness, because I found out later that 5 o'clock flight ended up getting canceled. So I dodged a bullet there. But was able to get on the 9:30 plane, touchdown in Pensacola, and now I'm back home. So Never got home to see my family. And American Airlines really dropped the ball on plenty of occasions. Like, I was in a position where I was pretty much helpless. I had no access to money whatsoever. Um, yeah, so that's that. And then I wanted to cover the fog thing, why they canceled it. So when we landed in Pensacola uh, Friday morning, we landed in really dense fog, like really bad fog. So I don't think that it was a weather related cancellation um, from the night before. I think maybe they were just low staffed and they just used the weather related as a policy excuse to excuse themselves from being a morally good company. So hopefully this long 16-minute video is enough to convince you that if you have booked with American Airlines, to cancel your flights and pay that little extra money for a different platform. But I do not recommend flying with American, because if you're put into a situation where you haven't showered, you don't have the right materials, like you've got no money, they don't have your back. They're not interested in helping you. They just see you as a profit margin, or they see you as, oh, we're going to lose money to that customer, so we're just going to treat them like crap. So don't fly with American Airlines. I'm never doing it again. Yeah, and moral of the story is if you want to see family, drive.